Hi everybody, I'm back, I should say. It's Sunday, June 7th. Today we are doing carrot cake cookies, which is a recipe by Delish. I got it out of their Insane Sweets book. This is what they should look like in the end. We'll see. I'm making this recipe today for a coworker at work. He asked me to make him some carrot cake muffins or something with carrot in it, so I thought, I've seen this recipe, I bet it would be good. So we're going to see how it goes. I've never made it before, so first time me, first time you. I haven't done a show in a few weeks, as you've probably noticed, or maybe you haven't, I don't know. We've been doing a major project in our garage, so that's been taking up our time on the weekends. But I'm going to try to get back to doing a show every week now. I hope. We'll see. So, anything else, Chris, about why we haven't done a show? Okay. He's shaking his head no, so we'll get started. So, today we're going to be using 2 eggs. These have been out since about 10 o'clock this morning, so they're room temperature. We have a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. This is a cup of packed brown sugar. I'm using light brown sugar. This is, just to be sure, 3/4 of a cup of unsalted butter. So this is 1 1/2 sticks, and I cut it up so that it would soften. This is 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Then our dry ingredients are 1 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour. In here we have our salt, which is a 1/2 teaspoon. In here we have our baking soda, which is 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And in here, part of our flavoring is cinnamon and nutmeg. So our nutmeg is, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and we have 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And then the final part of the cookies are our oats, and we have 2 cups. Now the recipe calls for old-fashioned oats, and since I don't have enough old-fashioned oats on hand, I'm using 1 cup of old-fashioned and 1 cup of quick oats, and that should be fine. It's just a matter of how the cooking time, so there shouldn't be any issue. I did some research just to make sure, and if you don't have old-fashioned oats, you should be able to use quick oats with no problem. In here we have 1 cup of shredded carrots, and then in here I have a 1/2 cup of golden raisins. Now the recipe calls for just regular raisins, however we never have regular raisins on hand, and so I'm substituting in golden raisins. If you haven't had a golden raisin before, it's not as a strong flavor as a regular raisin. I believe they're made with white grapes, I would assume. No?
It's nitrates, I think, in them that make the color, I believe.
Now you'll also...
They taste better, though.
They taste better?
Yeah.
You may notice that these look a little plumpier than normal. And so what I do, whenever I'm using raisins in a recipe, is I will plump them up. And how you do that is you take hot water and you put your raisins inside the hot water just in a bowl, and you just let them sit like that 10-15 minutes, and then drain them out like on a paper towel, so then they get more plumped up instead of like regular dried raisins. See how big that raisin came out after it was plumped up? And it really makes a difference in your cookies if you're using regular raisins, golden raisins, if you're using even dried cranberries, any kind of dried fruit, you can plump them up. Makes a difference. And then in here we have, this is 3/4 of a cup of unsweetened shredded coconut. All right, so that's all our ingredients. The way we're gonna start, oh, you know what, first I'll do is I'm going to whisk together all my dry ingredients so I have those ready to go. So I'm putting in my salt, baking soda and my spices. We're just going to give that a good whisk just to make sure it's all incorporated well. And you can really smell that cinnamon and nutmeg as I'm whisking it. Okay. So what we're going to do first, and usually with any kind of cookie recipe, you're always going to be mixing your butters and your sugars first. So, and we want to beat them well together. So we're going to put our butter in. And our sugar. We're just using a paddle attachment today. Make sure it's locked. I'm going to start it on just the first level of stir. You just don't want to right away go to a high speed and have things shoot out at you. And so now we're going to increase our speed a little bit. And you can see some of our butter is still chunky. It's not super soft. So it's going to need to work to get to a creamy consistency. Because what we want is the butter and sugar to really mix together well. And you can see that it's coming together. We're just wanting it to look almost fluffy, a fluffy consistency. And we don't want to see any kind of chunks of butter or anything like that. Oh, and I should mention that our oven has been preheated to 350. I always forget to say that right at the beginning. So we see that our butter and sugars are coming together well. They do have a good fluffy consistency. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that down. And I'm going to scrape my bowl in my paddle. Okay. And let's make sure I want to lock it. And so now we're going to be incorporating the eggs. And we want to do that one at a time. And I'm just going to put it on the low setting. And once you see it's in there, you can increase your speed a little bit. You just want to get that incorporated. I'm going to turn it back down to the lower level for the next egg.
What kind of eggs are they?
These are just large eggs. I use the pasture-raised eggs. But if you don't want to pay for those, I understand completely. You can use the regular H-E-B eggs. Turn it back down, and now we're going to be adding our teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, I'm going to slow that or stop that so I can scrape down my bowl. And you'll notice sometimes when you're making a recipe that after you've done your eggs and your sugars, it kind of looks curdled. And that's okay. It has like a bumpy, rough consistency. That's okay because it will come together as we add our dry ingredients. Alright. So now we're going to just incorporate our dry. And again, I don't dump it all in at one time. I just have a consistent flow of getting some in there. You can really smell the spices of cinnamon and nutmeg.
Smells like a Christmas candle.
Yeah. Okay. And so we just want to get that right to where it's you know, you don't want to over mix it or anything. And so now we're going to be adding all the fun stuff, which is our coconut, our raisins, our carrot, and our oats. So we'll go ahead and start with our oats. Oh, is it locked?
Yes.
I'm always backwards when I'm doing this. You see, I'm just kind of always going in a smooth, consistent flow of everything. You don't want to plop everything in all at once. Our carrots, I'm kind of just going to use my fingers to grab chunks of carrot.
Can you buy carrots like that?
Well, not shredded this finely. You could probably use the packages of shredded carrot, and that would be fine. It's a thick shred. That would be fine. I would say maybe chop them up a little bit, because sometimes you can get long strands like the size of a carrot, and you don't want that in here. Somebody forgot to turn the sound off their phone. But anyway, I liked this level of shred. I think it's nice and smooth. Like, it turns out smooth inside the cookie. You know, you're not going to bite into big chunks, but that's just me. I got myself a new grater yesterday or the day before, so I was happy to use that. Made my life a little bit easier. So, and I'm just gonna go through, make sure everything is well incorporated. Really getting to the bottom, because remember in your KitchenAid bowl, there's that little well that always has like a divot of ingredients stuck in there. Okay. So that is our batter, dough, whatever we want to call it. Here I have my sheet pans lined with parchment, and I'm using a cookie scoop, ice cream scoop, whatever you want to call it. If you don't have one of these, you can always just use a spoon. The recipe does call for about 1.5 tablespoon mounds, and so we're going to do probably 12 to a sheet pan. So whenever I scoop, I try to keep everything clean as much as possible. Got a little carrot sticking out there. And so what you're always usually trying to do is 3 down, 4 across.
I'm a little slow today in covering the action.
That's okay.
Trying not to make people sick at home.
It smells like a nice batter. I'm hoping that they have the consistency of a nice chewy cookie. Again, I've never made these, so I don't really know. But I'm hoping, because they're a carrot cake kind of cookie, that they have a nice chewy consistency instead of a crunchy. They don't seem like they would be a crunchy cookie.
Jake's watching. Maybe he could come by later and eat one.
Well, they are for somebody, but I may have some.
Sorry, Jake. None for you.
Okay, so you all don't need to watch me scoop out the rest of these. So we're going to put these in the oven. Again, it's at 350, and it says 16 to 18 minutes. So I'll probably start to check around 15 just to be sure. And what you're looking for is, let's see, according to the directions, it says to let them cool on the pans for 10 minutes and then remove them to wire racks to cool completely. So that's interesting. I mean, letting them sit on the pan for 10 minutes because once they're on the hot pan, they still kind of bake a little bit. So we'll see how they come out at 15, 16 minutes. They should always be like a golden brown color. You don't want anything too dark. So we'll go ahead and put this first pan in. We'll come back after we've had them all out, that they've cooled, and then I'm gonna do just a light glaze on these. I didn't put that on the recipe because some people would not want a glaze, but it's always a simple recipe for any kind of glaze. You can just do confectioner, sugar, vanilla, and water. It's very simple. Or you can use milk if you don't want to use water. The recipe in the book calls for using cream cheese to go along with the carrot cake kind of cake recipe. When I had talked to my coworker, he wasn't really interested in too much glaze, so I didn't want to get into like a whole heavy kind of glaze with the cream cheese. So we're just gonna do a light one on these. All right, so these are gonna go in the oven and we'll see you in a little while. Thanks.